Tech Tales 18, where I read my time slips of work that I do for billable clients. For those of you who are watching my other content, you recognize from this shirt that today is the same day as the previous Tech Tales video, which was number 17, and I just recently finished the live session with Bertland Hope. And I figured as long as I got the lights on, I might as well do the recording for tomorrow's Tech Tales that will publish at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And if you haven't noticed, I'm making these videos public 10 a.m. my time every day. So wherever you are in the world, you should be seeing this coming out at the same time each day. My intention is to record the day before. So here we go, Tech Tales 18. The next time slip is, it seems to me that I already told you a way that I was going to abbreviate these HUD-supported apartment buildings. So this one is G, the one that begins with a G. Actually, it's also G, it's G and D, HUD-supported buildings. So 7:25 to 7:40 p.m., 15 minutes, I attempted to connect remote to the D office computer and the G leasing computer to perform configuration changes for A and Steve, A and S, finding both to be offline. Sent an email to C, the office manager of both buildings, offering priority service on Monday with phone calls from staff at their convenience. Enabled Microsoft standard licenses on both accounts. So actually all three of these buildings come under the umbrella of a fourth company name. And it gets kind of complicated to talk about who manages what, so I'm not going to attempt to do that. But here, these two buildings, G and D, have their own custom domain names for their email accounts, yet they are both under the one business account for G. The apartment building that goes by the name M has a different domain name, but they have their own Office 365 account. So their Office 365 account I administer separately from G and D buildings. They are both administered from the Microsoft 365 business account of G, even though the two buildings have their own custom domain names within that one Office 365 business account. How clear can mud be? So this is where one person was moving from G to D. So the person that was working at the leasing desk at G is now going to be running the office at D, which is a one-person office. G has 6 office staff, that have their own computers. So I was a bit overdue on making the configuration changes, and I kind of dragged my feet a little bit because they actually had some training time, some transition time. It was going to take a number of days, but it got to the point where one of them in particular was really needing his email address to be activated. So I had asked them to leave their computers on over the weekend so I could do that work. And here it was Sunday evening and 7:25 p.m. So you can see that I kind of got pushed back late in the weekend. And when I went to connect, their computers weren't available. So I did this time slip to show that I had attempted. And then I went ahead into the administrator interface of Microsoft 365 and assigned the licenses for their accounts. I had already created their accounts without licenses. My intention originally was that I would just deactivate the license from the old account and then activate that license on the new account. Well, just because things have got a little fussy, I went ahead and purchased a new license. So we're going to have a little overlap of license expense. They're not going to worry about that, frankly. And it dawned on me that I really can't move both licenses to the new person because one of the positions, the leasing agent going from G to D, they want to keep that email active for the G account. So it's going to stay licensed for now. When I get to another time slip and start talking about making a mail account a shared account without its own license, then you may see the light that there's another way to handle this. But frankly, 1 month of license cost it's a rounding error. It's not a huge concern. So this was a 15-minute time slip. I think I'll go ahead and expose what actually happened here. I'm not sure if I detail it in a subsequent time slip, but when I talked to the manager of the two facilities on Monday, I found out that the power had gone out in both the buildings on Sunday before I attempted to connect. So they did leave the computers on for me. It's just that due to the power failure, those computers did not come back on. I know there's ways to make that happen, but they don't need that in this office. We used to have uninterruptible power supplies, but they caused more nuisance than they were worth. And there's no point in these computers being power protected. So when the power goes out, they just are off. And I do not have them configured to automatically come back on. Again, it's just not important there. This was one time where it would have been beneficial. Then next time slip, this one is charged to the chiropractic office, but it's not for work on the chiropractic office. This is for work for John Ed. John Ed has been on some of my support videos. So his name is okay for me to say. He is the father of the owner of the chiropractic office. So the time slip is 9:49 to 10:47 a.m. So it's almost an hour. It's 58 minutes. The time slip reads, assisted with changing passwords on multiple accounts after losing printed paper with passwords on recent trip. Discussed better way to handle passwords needed while traveling. Now, the detail about this might be surprising to some of you. John Ed is, I'm going to say, his late 80s. And let's see, So when he was traveling, he likes to print out his password list and take it with him. Now, in subsequent questioning, I found out that password list is not actually stored in a file on his computer. It only exists on paper. So that's one level of protection. The only people who are going to find his password list or somebody who gets physical access to his room. So he makes a copy of it and takes it with him. He lost it while he was away. And so now he's worried about somebody getting into his accounts. Before he contacted me, he had already changed the password on the accounts that he thought were most costly, meaning his bank account and a couple others, I think. So I pointed out to him why we need to change the passwords on other accounts. I think he had already changed his email password. And did he? It's not his Microsoft account. He hadn't changed that. And I don't think his Google account. So I pointed out that his Microsoft account, if somebody signed into that, they'd have access to all of his Microsoft Word documents. And that contains stuff that he doesn't want someone else to get hold of. And that his Google account, that includes his Gmail his Google Chrome remembered passwords. So they could get into that list and access his passwords from there for other accounts. So we changed his Microsoft account password and his Google account password. We added some two-factor authentication. So if anyone tried to sign into those accounts with the correct password, they would then be challenged with a two-factor authentication, meaning a text message to his cell phone or an email to his email account. So we discussed many aspects around the subject of passwords, and we discussed also what to do next time he needs to travel and that he wants to take passwords along with him. I don't think a password manager is a good choice for him. And that's just because that's going to be a whole nother software environment to learn. He's in his upper 80s. He's pretty sharp. He could do it. But he doesn't travel very often. And it just didn't make a whole lot of sense because the only times he needs to take the passwords, let's suppose he goes on a trip and he is using a password manager. Well, what if he loses his cell phone and hasn't taken his laptop with him? Now he doesn't have any of those. He wants to be able to log into his bank account when he's away on a trip. He wants to be able to log into his email from any random computer while on his trip. So he needs to know those account credentials. And with having complex passwords and different passwords on all the accounts, it's kind of difficult to do. So what we came up with is next time he wants to travel, he'll make a copy of his passwords, but rearrange them on the paper so that the ones that he thinks he might want to use while he's away is all he's taking with him, instead of the entire list of accounts and passwords, because he's got to change almost all of those accounts. For instance, his Facebook account. Is it important to change that? And I said, yes, it is, because here's what can happen. Suppose somebody logs into your Facebook account and sends a message, shares a message to all of your Facebook contacts saying, my neighbor's child was hit by a car. They're very poor, and I created a GoFundMe account to help him with the medical costs or the burial costs if the scammer really wants to get really mean about it. I created this GoFundMe account. Would you please go donate $5 to that? John Ed, how many of your contacts in Facebook would believe that that is something that you would do and would just go to that GoFundMe account and donate $5? Yet that was the scammer that did that. And he said, oh, I see. So all of his social media accounts have the same vulnerability. What if they go into your Amazon account? They could place an order utilizing one of your saved credit cards and ship it to their address. Or they could ship it to one of those Amazon pickup boxes. I don't know if there's any authentication there to prove you are the actual Amazon account holder. But once they get into your Amazon account, they could then change the password, change the security questions, change to a two-factor authentication that is for them. Now, John Ed, you've got to go cancel all your credit card or whatever credit cards you have in that Amazon account. So there's a lot of things that can happen with a lot of different accounts. Let's say your medical account. He was concerned about his Social Security Administration account. and it has medical information. And he asked me, what could they do with that? I said, okay, they could go into your Social Security Administration account. They could find some information about some medical issues that you have. Then they could send an email to you without knowing your email password, or they could send a text message to you because they have access to your cell phone number, probably, if they're into your Social Security Administration account, or they could send you U.S. mail on a nice looking brochure. We understand that you have this particular medical condition, whatever it is that he might have. I'm not even sure what medical conditions he might have. In his late 80s, he's probably got something. And they could send you this nice looking brochure. We're inviting you to participate in a trial of a new medicine. All we need you to do is go to this website and pay a $25 enrollment fee. And that's the scammer asking him to do that. That's what they could do with something as otherwise benign as a Social Security Administration account. Now, I don't know if his actual Social Security number would become visible to them in that online account. I think probably not. Of course, what would they do with a Social Security number and this other information that they have garnered? They probably have a current U.S. mail address, have a current email address, have a current phone number. They know your birth date. They know your Social Security number. The common thing is they open up a credit card in your name. And they send the statements to some other address, not your normal address. So you never see the statements. But they start charging. They get a credit allotment, a credit balance, appropriate for whatever John Ed's credit rating is. And now they can charge up that card, never make payments, or maybe make the minimum payments so they can keep charging later on. And eventually John Ed discovers that there's this huge balance that he has to pay off. It's going to be really hard to show that that is fraudulent, even if he can show it's fraudulent. I'm not sure how much defense a person has in that environment. Maybe somebody knows that and you can enlighten me in the comments. But if somebody is charging over a period of time and you never dispute those charges because you don't know they're happening if you don't have credit monitoring. So that's what they can do with that. There's just untold number of things that they could do causing you damage if the bad guys get hold of your information. So gosh, pushing 20 minutes here. Sorry this one was so long, but that triggered a good conversation there. I think it's worth having. So I hope this was useful to you. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.